and this is Dr. Mel's Message. Today I have a wonderful author for you to introduce you to, and his name is Dr. Russell Kennedy. Now, he's better known as the anxiety doctor, and you'll see why, because he also has written a book called Anxiety RX. So let's meet him, and I'm just going to call him Russ, and he's going to call me Mel, and we're going to go from there. Welcome, Russ. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mel. I guess I was going to ask how you are, but I know because we were just talking about your injuries.
Yeah, my followers already know, so that's a good thing. They're used to this. I'll be glad when I get it off, and I
Okay.
just think it's apropos that I'm actually introducing and interviewing a doctor on anxiety, and here I am filled with it because of all of this. So
Okay.
this is pretty good stuff that you've written, actually. So
Yeah, it's very unique, I think. I struggle with anxiety myself. I grew up with a father who was schizophrenic, so I grew up in kind of a chaotic environment. And the book is ostensibly about anxiety, but really a lot of it is about, any kind of childhood trauma and recovering from it.
okay, now when we're talking about anxiety, is there a difference between anxiety and panic attacks?
Yeah, I think the thing is, I talk about this in the book, is I differentiate anxiety as just anxious thoughts of the mind. And I call them painless. What is painful is this sense of alarm that's held in our body. And that sense of alarm that I saw when I took LSD, because there's a long backstory to this, but I've had anxiety for a long time. So I've done everything I possibly could to understand my own anxious mind, including taking LSD. And LSD showed me that actually my anxiety was actually the sense of alarm that I was holding in my body. And it's really only reflected by my mind, which I know sounds weird, but I also have a degree in neuroscience as well. So I know the brain, I know how the brain works. But I really saw on this sort of LSD journey that what I was calling anxiety was really this sense of alarm that was stored in my body. And because my brain is just a make sense, meaning making machine, it reads that alarm and then creates a story consistent with that alarm. So it's going to create a story of, oh my God, I hope this doesn't happen. Oh my God, I hope that doesn't happen. What if, worries, worst case scenarios. And that just starts this cycle of anxiety in the mind, which is typically painless, and alarm in the body, which is what the pain comes from.
Well, it's very interesting that you just say that. And I can go back to, my own injuries. Number one, I've only been in a car twice, and that was to go home from the hospital and then back to go see a doctor. But each time that I get in a car, I almost go, kind of like the flashbacks of a wreck. So that is what you're actually talking about. I'm holding inside of me.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a structure in our brains called the amygdala, which is kind of called the fear center of the brain. And the amygdala recognizes anything that was even close to what your original wound was. So because you associate your wounding with a car, that amygdala in your brain, we have two, left and right, will fire up anytime that you get into a similar situation. So when you get back into a car again, the amygdala will fire up. It will start the adrenaline and the cortisol, the hormones of anxiety and stress in your system, which will, of course, makes you really tense. And when you get really tense, your brain goes into this sort of emotional state rather than a rational one. And in that emotional state, we start thinking all these worries. And because our brain is compromised by that emotional state, it believes the worries that the brain is creating. So we get into this negative cycle of believing the worries, it making the alarm worse, which makes us go into more of an emotional state, which allows us not to be rational anymore. So these worries that normally, if we were feeling okay, would be like, yeah, forget about it. But because our brain is compromised, those worries just seem more real than they actually are.
So how does one, and I'm sure your book addresses this, but how does one get over those irrational anxieties that your brain are creating for you?
Well, the premise of this book, and it's different than any other anxiety book that's ever been written, and I'm really proud of that, is it really focuses on finding yourself in your body, finding that alarm in your body, and then focusing on that, breathing, connecting with yourself, because I really believe that a lot of anxiety comes from this old, mostly childhood trauma that's still stored in our body. So it's going back into that old trauma, but having a safe place to go as well. So the book talks about creating a safe place in your body so that you don't have to worry anymore. Because what I think worry is worry traps us in our head. So this old trauma that we push down into our body, we don't want to go there anymore. So we worry so that we can keep ourselves in our head and not go back into that place of pain, that old pain in our body from our childhood. So what I do in the book is I show you how to go back into your body safely so that you're not trapped in your head anymore. You can actually go back down into your body. You can feel yourself. You can reconnect with yourself. And when you reconnect with yourself, that alarm goes away, and then there's nothing there to feed the anxious thoughts anymore. And that's basically the premise of the book, is showing you how to deal with that alarm feeling in your body so that it doesn't feed those anxious thoughts anymore.
Now, you were at one point a full-time doctor, but
Yep.
now it is your full-time mission, that is to help people overcome anxieties, whether it's previous traumas in past childhood or current traumas, wherever they are in their life. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to live in an 8-hour panic attack. I had anxiety for many, many years. And my mission in life my life's work as a physician, a neuroscientist, developmental psychologist, all the stuff that I've acquired academically has been to really help people understand why they're anxious and what they can really do to help it. Because I think the traditional therapies really miss the mark. I think medications miss the mark. I think talk therapy misses the mark, because here's the thing. If this is an emotional program that you're holding in your body, all the talking back and forth isn't going to make much of a difference to it. You really have to get a hold of it at a feeling level. Now, I'm not saying that talk therapy isn't valuable. It absolutely is. But I'm just saying talk therapy alone is not going to heal your anxiety. You really need to understand where it comes from, which is this alarm that's trapped in the body from either PTSD, like a car accident, or from childhood abuse, abandonment, neglect, rejection, all this stuff that gets held into our bodies. And then if we don't release it, it just creates this negative energy that feeds the brain. So I believe that anxiety is much more of a body issue that is reflected by the brain than a brain issue that's reflected by the body. And I'm a neuroscientist, so that's saying something.
That says a whole lot. Now, what we're talking about is Russ's new book, and it's called Anxiety RX. And what I want to do right now is show you the trailer for the book. Now, Anxiety RX, it's available in paperback and ebook. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm actually making the audiobook right now, but right now it's paperback and Kindle. Yep.
And it's available on Amazon.
Yep.
And it's also available at dr-russ.com.
Yep.
And that is your website. Now, if somebody wants individual coaching from you or a session with you, do you offer those services?
I'm not doing that right now, but I think what I will do is if you go to my website and sign up for my mailing list, I'm going to start offering sessions for groups, 10 or 20 people. And then if you want a specific one-on-one session, they're fairly expensive because, I'm probably the best in the world at this, just to be, to be a little arrogant. But I think what I'd like to do is just give people a 10 or 20 person session so that they get, because everyone learns from everybody else's anxiety. Our anxieties are about different things. Yours is about a car accident. Some people may be about, eating disorder, but our anxieties are all about different things, but they all come from the same place and we all learn from each other. And that's what I'm aiming to do, but I've got to finish the audiobook and I've got a bunch of other things on the go right now, but I really do hope to get into some peer counseling in the future.
Well, that is fabulous. And again, we're talking with Dr. Russell Kennedy, known as the Dr. Anxiety.
The
And
Anxiety MD. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Anxiety MD.
yeah.
There
So
we go.
that's where you find me for anything. It's like Google anything. If you Google the Anxiety MD, you'll find my YouTube, my Twitter, my Instagram. The Anxiety MD that's my brand.
That's phenomenal. And his book is Anxiety RX, and it's available on Amazon. And I know for sure, just having talked to you, that I'm going to be getting my own copy and reading it. And I'll give you an update on how it goes with my anxiety and not being able to get into a car without a panic attack now.
No kidding.
All right. Thank you so much, Russ, for
Thank
joining
you,
me
Sarah.
here on
Thank you so much.
my channel. And I'm sure that this book is probably a tremendous thing at this time of the year because so many people face anxieties during the holiday season. So thank you
Absolutely.
for that. And thank you for writing it.
Thank you.